I didn't believe in the old stories, not until the day Aina found the stone. That morning, Fenwood was cloaked in mist, the kind that blurred the edges of the forest, made shadows dance where there weren't any. My mother had warned me not to stray too far from the fields, but Aina had other plans. "Come on, we don't have all day," she called over her shoulder, already darting ahead. Lyra and I trailed after her, dragging our feet. Aina had this way of pulling people into her orbit. Even when you wanted to stay put, she'd find a way to drag you along. We crossed the brook just as the sun started burning through the mist. The elders always said not to go past the brook, that it was cursed, a place where spirits lingered. I didn't believe them, not really. But as we stepped into the shadow of the big pine, I felt the air change. It was colder here, quieter. "Over here," Aina said, crouched by a gnarled tree root. She was digging, her fingers clawing at the damp earth. "What are you doing?" Lyra asked, her voice sharp. "We're not supposed to be here." "Since when do you care about rules?" Aina shot back. She grinned at me, her face smudged with dirt. "Come help me." I hesitated. There was something about the way the shadows pooled around her, the way the air seemed to hum. "I'll do it myself," she said, brushing me off. A few minutes later, she pulled it free, a jagged piece of stone, dark and heavy. One side was smooth as glass, but the other was etched with markings, twisting lines like vines or maybe snakes. They looked old, older than anything I'd ever seen. "It's just a rock," I said, though I didn't believe it. "It's more than that," Aina said, her voice quiet. Her fingers traced the carvings like they meant something to her. "We need to go," Lyra said, her face pale. Mama says a lot of things," Aina snapped, but then her voice softened. "This is important, I can feel it." That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the stone, its markings twisted in my mind, turning into shapes I couldn't quite understand. The next day, Fenwood was different. People seemed tense. The usual chatter at the well was gone, replaced by whispers. Even the dogs were quiet, slinking around with their tails tucked. By the third day, the whispers turned to fear. Old Jakob was the first. The villagers found him slumped by the hearth in his cottage, his face twisted in terror. The healer said it was his heart, but no one believed her. Not really. "It's the forest," someone muttered at the market. "Something's come back." By the time the sun set, half the village was talking about curses and spirits. And Aina, she hadn't left her house since the day we found the stone. That night, I couldn't stay away. I crept out of bed and made my way to Aina's house. The door was open, just a crack. Inside, the fire burned low, casting long, flickering shadows on the walls. Aina sat cross-legged in the middle of the room, the stone in her lap. Her mother, Mara, stood over her, her face pale and drawn. "You shouldn't have brought it here," Mara said, her voice trembling. "It's just a rock," Aina replied, though her voice faltered. Mara shook her head. "It's not just a rock, it's a piece of the binding. Do you know what that means?" Aina looked up, her eyes wide. "The binding's just a story." Mara knelt beside her, grabbing her shoulders. "It's not a story, it's real, and you've disturbed it." I pressed myself against the doorframe, my heart pounding. The binding. Everyone in Fenwood knew the tale, a pact made long ago to seal something terrible beneath the earth. Aina's mother had always dismissed it as nonsense, until now. "What do we do?" Aina whispered. Mara's hands trembled as she reached for the stone. "We put it back." The moment her fingers touched it, the fire flared, sending sparks into the air. And then the whispers started. At first they were faint, like the rustling of leaves, but they grew louder, filling the room. They came from everywhere, the walls, the floor, even the air itself. "Let go," Aina shouted, pulling the stone away from her mother. The whisper stopped. The fire died down, leaving the room in darkness. Mara sat back, her face pale and her eyes wide. "It's awake," she said. "What's awake?" I asked, stepping into the room. They both turned to me, startled. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Mara stood, her hands clenched into fists. "It doesn't matter," she said. "We'll fix this, but no one can know. Do you understand me? No one." I nodded, though I didn't understand at all. The next morning, Mara told the village that old Jakob's death was natural, that the strange happenings were over. Most people believed her, but I didn't, and neither did Aina. She kept the stone, though she never spoke of it again, And though life in Fenwood seemed to return to normal, I knew something had changed. Aina had touched something ancient that day in the woods, something that wasn't finished with her yet, and deep down, I knew we hadn't seen the last of it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing stories. Hit the bell so you never miss out. See you next time.